Captain Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display floating above her command console, her coffee growing cold as she processed what her communications officer had just reported. The bridge of the UES Vigilance hummed with its usual background noise, but something in Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice had cut through the routine chatter like a plasma cutter through steel. "Say that again, Rodriguez," Chen commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 15 years patrolling the Outer Rim territories. "Ma'am, we're picking up a distress signal on frequency 447.2. It's not using any known human protocols." Rodriguez's fingers danced across his console, fine-tuning the signal. "The pattern suggests it's artificial in origin, definitely not natural stellar phenomena." The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of life support systems. First contact protocols had been drilled into every officer in the Terran Defense Fleet, but hearing about aliens in theory and actually encountering them were vastly different experiences. "Put it on speakers," Chen ordered, settling back into her command chair. The cushions automatically adjusted to support her frame, a small comfort in what was rapidly becoming an extraordinary moment. The speakers crackled to life, and an otherworldly sound filled the bridge. It wasn't quite music, wasn't quite speech, but something that seemed to bridge both concepts. The signal pulsed with a desperate rhythm that needed no translation. Even species that had never met could recognize the universal language of fear and pleading. "Computer, run analysis on the signal pattern," Chen commanded. The ship's artificial intelligence, nicknamed Aria by the crew, responded in her calm, synthetic voice. "Pattern analysis indicates high probability of distress. Mathematical sequences suggest intelligence level comparable to or exceeding human standards. Signal strength indicates source is approximately 2.7 light-years from current position." Chen's executive officer, Commander Marcus Webb, leaned forward in his chair. "Captain, that puts the source in the Kepler 442 system. Our long-range sensors haven't detected any artificial structures there." "Maybe our sensors aren't as good as we thought," Chen replied grimly. She touched her comm badge. "All department heads to the bridge immediately. This is priority alpha." Within minutes, the bridge filled with the senior staff. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist, arrived first, her excitement barely contained despite the gravity of the situation. Chief Engineer Tommy Sullivan followed, wiping grease from his hands with a cloth that had seen better days. Science Officer David Park practically sprinted from his laboratory, tablet in hand, and already running preliminary analyses. "People," Chen began, "we've got ourselves a first contact situation. Dr. Vasquez, what's your initial assessment?" The xenobiologist studied the waveform patterns on the main display. "Captain, the mathematical complexity is remarkable. This isn't just a simple SOS. There are layers to this communication, almost like they're trying to convey multiple pieces of information simultaneously. I'm detecting what appears to be star charts, population figures, and—" She paused, double-checking her readings. "Energy signatures that suggest weapons fire." The implications hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. This wasn't just first contact. Someone was under attack. Commander Webb stood straighter. "Captain, recommend we contact Fleet Command immediately. This requires more than one ship." Chen nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead. "Area. Calculate fastest route to the source of the signal. Factor in jump drive capabilities and fuel consumption." Calculating. Fastest route would require 3 jump sequences with a total travel time of 18 hours, 47 minutes. However, Captain, I must advise that regulations require fleet authorization before responding to potential first contact scenarios. I'm aware of the regulations. Aria. Chen's voice carried an edge that made several crew members glance her way. "Mr. Sullivan, how quickly can we spin up the jump drive?" The chief engineer's weathered face creased into a frown. "Give me 30 minutes to run full diagnostics. We've been on patrol for 6 weeks, and I want to make sure everything's running smooth before we start jumping around the galaxy." Dr. Park looked up from his tablet. Captain, I've been analyzing the signal degradation. Based on the decay patterns, I estimate this transmission began approximately 14 hours ago. Whatever's happening there started while we were sleeping. The weight of that statement settled over the bridge. Somewhere in the darkness of space, an unknown species had been fighting for their lives for over half a day, sending out desperate pleas for help to anyone who might be listening. Chen made her decision. Rodriguez, open a channel to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha encryption. The communication took several minutes to establish, given their distance from the main fleet bases. When Admiral Harrison's weathered face finally appeared on the screen, his expression was grim even before Chen had explained the situation. Captain Chen, I've been expecting your call. We've been monitoring similar signals from 3 other sectors. Whatever's happening out there, it's big. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. Sir, are you saying this is happening in multiple locations simultaneously? That's exactly what I'm saying. Intelligence suggests we're looking at a coordinated attack on several species across this arm of the galaxy. Species we didn't even know existed until today. The bridge erupted in quiet murmurs as the crew absorbed this information. They weren't just dealing with one alien species, but potentially several, all under attack by an unknown aggressor. Admiral Harrison continued. Captain, I'm authorizing you to respond to the distress call in your sector. However, you won't be going alone. I'm dispatching the 7th Fleet to rendezvous with you at the signal source. Webb leaned forward. Sir, the 7th Fleet? That's 15 ships, including 2 dreadnoughts. Commander, based on what our analysts are seeing, we might need every ship we can get. The energy readings from these attack sites suggest weapons technology beyond anything in our current databases. Dr. Vasquez spoke up. Admiral, if I may, the communication complexity suggests these species are at least as advanced as we are. If they're calling for help, whatever they're facing must be overwhelming their defenses. Harrison nodded gravely. Doctor, that's exactly our concern. We're looking at the possibility of a threat that could destabilize this entire region of the galaxy. If these species fall, we could be next. Chen studied the tactical display that had appeared on her screen, showing the locations of all reported distress signals. The pattern was too organized to be coincidental, too widespread to be anything but a massive coordinated assault. Sir, what are our rules of engagement? Captain, you're authorized to use whatever force necessary to protect innocent life and assess the threat level. However, remember that we're potentially dealing with multiple unknown species. Document everything, but don't hesitate to act if lives are at stake. The connection ended, leaving the bridge crew in contemplative silence. Chen looked around at her officers, seeing the same mixture of excitement and apprehension she felt herself. Mr. Sullivan, status report on the jump drive. Running diagnostics now, Captain. All systems showing green. We can jump on your command. Chen nodded. Dr. Vasquez, I want you monitoring that signal continuously. Any changes in pattern, intensity, or content, I want to know immediately. Already on it, Captain. The signal is actually getting stronger, which suggests either the transmitting device is increasing power or... She paused, checking her readings. Or we're detecting multiple sources now broadcasting the same message. The implications sent another chill through the bridge crew. Either the situation was escalating or more populations were joining the desperate call for help. Chen stood, straightening her uniform. Mr. Park, prepare a full scientific analysis package. If we're about to meet new species under these circumstances, we need to understand everything we can about their technology, their biology, and their situation. Captain, Rodriguez called out, I'm detecting new elements in the signal. It appears they've somehow incorporated visual components. Permission to display? Put it on the main screen. The bridge lights dimmed automatically as the main display activated. What appeared made several crew members gasp audibly. The images were clearly from space, showing what appeared to be a large space station under attack. Bright energy beams lanced through the void, striking the station's hull with devastating effect. Small craft, presumably fighters, swarmed around the structure like angry insects. But it was the attackers that made Chen's blood run cold. The ships were massive, angular, and dark. Their design philosophy seemed based on intimidation rather than efficiency, with sharp edges and aggressive lines that spoke of a culture built around warfare. "My God," Webb whispered. "Look at the size difference. Those attack ships are massive compared to the fighters trying to defend the station." Dr. Vasquez was frantically taking notes. "Captain, the defensive ships appear to use similar propulsion systems to our own, but those attacking vessels, I'm not recognizing the engine signatures at all." Chen watched the battle unfolding on the screen, knowing they were seeing events that were already hours old. Somewhere in space, this desperate fight was either still raging or already decided. "Area, estimate of hostile vessel capabilities based on observed firepower. Analysis indicates weapon systems approximately 3 times more powerful than standard Terran naval armaments. Vessel size suggests significant armor and shielding capabilities. Recommendation: approach with extreme caution." Chen felt the familiar weight of command settling on her shoulders. In her 15 years of service, she had faced pirates, smugglers, and the occasional territorial dispute. But this was something entirely different. This was war on a scale humanity had never witnessed. "Mr. Sullivan, how long until the 7th Fleet arrives?" "Depending on their starting positions, anywhere from 6 to 12 hours after we reach the signal source, ma'am." Chen made her decision. "We're going to jump ahead of the fleet. These people have been under attack for 14 hours. Every minute we delay could mean more lives lost." Webb looked concerned. "Captain, regulations suggest waiting for fleet support in unknown hostile situations." "Commander, those are people out there dying while we follow regulations. Sometimes you have to do what's right, not what's safe." Chen turned to her communications officer. "Rodriguez, transmit our intentions to Fleet Command. Tell them we're proceeding ahead of the main force to assess the situation and render immediate assistance if possible." She looked around the bridge at her crew, seeing the determination in their faces. "People, we're about to make history. We're going to be humanity's first representatives to other species, and we're meeting them in the middle of a war. Everything we do from this moment on reflects not just on us, but on our entire species." Dr. Vasquez spoke up. "Captain, what if the attackers are also intelligent? What if this is some kind of civil war or legitimate conflict we don't understand?" It was a valid concern, one that had been keeping xenobiologists awake for decades. "Doctor, that's why we observe first. But when someone is calling for help, and we have the power to provide it, we have a moral obligation to try." Chen settled back into her command chair. "Mr. Sullivan, bring the jump drive online. Mr. Rodriguez, continue monitoring all communications channels. Dr. Park, I want every sensor we have focused on that system the moment we arrive." The bridge hummed with renewed activity as the crew prepared for humanity's first leap into interstellar conflict. Chen watched the tactical display, seeing the positions of the approaching 7th Fleet and calculating arrival times. They would be alone for several hours, one ship against whatever was devastating an unknown civilization. "Jump drive ready, Captain," Sullivan reported. Chen took a deep breath, thinking about the millions of people back on Earth who had no idea their species was about to step onto a much larger stage. "Execute jump." The stars stretched into lines as the UES Vigilance leaped across space toward a rendezvous with destiny. In the communication arrays, the alien SOS continued its desperate broadcast, a cry for help that would change the course of galactic history. The UES Vigilance dropped out of jump space with the familiar sensation of reality reasserting itself around the ship's hull. Captain Chen immediately felt the difference in her bones. They had arrived at the edge of a war zone. The bridge's emergency lighting cast red shadows across the crew's faces as they struggled to process what their sensors were detecting. "Report," Chen commanded, though her eyes were already fixed on the main display showing a system in chaos. "Captain, I'm reading massive debris fields throughout the system," Science Officer Park announced, his voice tight with barely controlled shock. "These aren't natural asteroid formations. These are the remains of artificial structures, stations, ships, maybe even orbital habitats." Lieutenant Rodriguez's communications console chirped frantically as dozens of signals flooded their receivers. "Ma'am, I'm detecting at least 47 different distress signals throughout the system. Some are automated, some appear to be live transmissions. And Captain, some of them are human." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of overtaxed processors struggling to analyze the unprecedented amount of data. Chen felt her stomach drop. "Human? That's impossible. We don't have any colonies this far out." "Ma'am, I'm running voice pattern analysis now. These aren't signals from our people. They're speaking human languages, but the vocal patterns suggest non-human vocal cords attempting to reproduce our words." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her xenobiology console, her face pale. "They're trying to communicate with us in our own language. They must have been monitoring our transmissions for years, maybe decades." The implications hit the crew like a physical blow. Somewhere in this system, alien civilizations had been studying humanity from afar, learning their languages, preparing for eventual contact. And their first meeting was happening in the middle of a massacre. Commander Webb studied the tactical display. "Captain, I'm detecting 32 active battle zones throughout the system. The attacking force appears to be methodically moving from one defended position to another." "Show me the nearest engagement," Chen ordered. The main screen shifted to display a battle taking place around a massive orbital structure. The space station was clearly alien in design. Its organic curves and spiral architecture unlike anything human engineers had ever conceived. It was beautiful, artistic, and dying. Dark, angular ships surrounded the station like predators circling wounded prey. Their weapons fired in precise patterns, systematically destroying defensive platforms and communication arrays. The station's defenders fought back with energy weapons that painted space in brilliant blues and greens, but they were clearly overwhelmed. "My God," Webb whispered. "Look at the size differential. Those alien ships are massive." Chief Engineer Sullivan pulled up technical readouts on his console. "Captain, I'm analyzing the enemy weapons. Energy output is off the charts. Our shields wouldn't last 30 seconds against that kind of firepower." Dr. Park's console beeped urgently. "Captain, I'm detecting something else. Those attacking ships, they're not crewed by biological entities. The energy patterns suggest artificial intelligence systems. We're looking at automated war machines." The revelation sent chills through the bridge crew. This wasn't a conventional war between two species fighting over resources or territory. This was an extermination campaign being carried out by machines. "Area," Chen called to the ship's AI. "Analysis of enemy vessel capabilities." "Captain, based on observed firepower and maneuvering patterns, these vessels appear designed specifically for planetary pacification and orbital bombardment. Their target priorities suggest systematic elimination of technological infrastructure and population centers." Chen absorbed this information while watching another defensive platform explode in a brilliant flash of superheated metal and atmosphere. "Mr. Rodriguez, any response to our arrival?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm receiving communications from 17 different sources. They're using multiple languages, including what appears to be mathematical concepts and—" He paused, double-checking his readings. "And they're all saying essentially the same thing. They're thanking us for coming and begging us to help evacuate civilians." The bridge's tactical display updated as Area processed incoming data. Captain, long-range sensors detect additional attacking forces moving toward this position. Estimated time of arrival, 4 hours, 37 minutes. Chen studied the display, calculating options. The 7th Fleet wasn't due to arrive for at least 6 hours, leaving the Vigilance alone against an enemy that had already devastated multiple star systems. Her training screamed at her to retreat and wait for support, but the desperate voices filling their communications channels made retreat impossible. Dr. Vasquez, what can you tell me about the species under attack? The xenobiologist had been frantically analyzing the alien communications and ship designs. Captain, I'm detecting at least 3 distinct species in the defensive forces. Their ship design suggests different evolutionary backgrounds. One species appears to be aquatic in origin, another shows signs of low-gravity development, and the third has characteristics I've never seen before. All of them are working together to defend the system, Park added. This appears to be some kind of multi-species alliance or confederation. Chen watched as another wave of attacking ships moved toward a cluster of evacuation vessels. The civilian ships were clearly not designed for combat, their hulls thin and their engines focused on efficiency rather than speed. Without protection, they would be slaughtered. Mr. Webb, tactical assessment. Can we engage those attacking ships? Webb studied the enemy formations, running combat simulations in his head. Captain, we have advantages in maneuverability and our weapon systems are more precise than theirs appear to be. But their sheer firepower and numbers, he shook his head. We might take out a few ships, but they'd overwhelm us eventually. Ma'am, Rodriguez interrupted, I'm receiving a priority transmission. It's coming directly to us, using human communication protocols. Put it through. The speakers crackled, and then a voice filled the bridge. It was unmistakably alien, with harmonic undertones that no human throat could produce, but the words were clear English. Human vessel, I am Commander Zelaki of the Meridian Defense Coalition. We have monitored your species' transmissions for many cycles and learned your languages in hope of eventual peaceful contact. These are not the circumstances we had envisioned for first meeting. Chen stepped forward, activating her command microphone. Commander Zelaki, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran vessel UES Vigilance. We received your distress signals and came to assist. What is the situation? Captain Chen, the machines you see attacking us call themselves the Harvest. They appear in systems without warning, demand surrender of all technological species, and when refused, begin systematic extermination. They have destroyed 7 systems in this region. We are the last. The weight of that statement settled over the bridge crew. They weren't just witnessing a battle. They were watching the final stand of an entire region of the galaxy. Commander, what do you need from us? Captain, our primary concern is civilian evacuation. We have transport ships carrying over 2 million non-combatant individuals from 3 different species. They cannot reach safe jump distance with the Harvest ships blocking escape routes. Chen looked at her tactical officer. Mr. Webb, show me the evacuation routes. The display updated to show streams of civilian ships trying to escape the system while being herded by attacking vessels. It was a deliberately cruel tactic. The machines were using the civilians as bait to keep the defenders from retreating. Aria, calculate combat scenarios for clearing a path for civilian evacuees. Captain, success probability for single ship engagement 14%. However, if the goal is creating a temporary corridor rather than winning the engagement, probability increases to 67%. Chen felt the familiar weight of command decisions settling on her shoulders. 67% odds of saving 2 million lives. In her academy training, those would be considered acceptable odds for a rescue mission. Captain, Webb said quietly, the fleet will be here in 6 hours. If we wait, Commander, in 6 hours those civilians will be dead. Chen's voice carried absolute finality. Dr. Vasquez, do we have any information about these machine intelligences? Weaknesses, communication protocols, anything? I'm analyzing the wreckage patterns from destroyed ships. The attackers appear to have a hive mind command structure. When one ship identifies a threat, they all respond simultaneously, but that also means they have predictable response patterns. Chief Sullivan looked up from his engineering console. Captain, I've been studying their energy signatures. These machine ships appear to be powered by some kind of exotic matter reactor. Very efficient, but if we could destabilize one of their power cores, the chain reaction would take out nearby ships, Chen finished. How close would we need to get? Danger close, ma'am, within 2 kilometers of their hull. Chen nodded slowly. It was insane, but it was also their best chance to make a difference with a single ship. Mr. Rodriguez, open a channel to the alien commander. Channel open, Captain. Commander Zalaki, this is Captain Chen. We're going to attempt to clear an escape route for your civilian ships. Direct them toward the jump point at coordinates. She looked at her navigation officer, who quickly provided the safest route. We'll try to keep the attackers busy while they escape. Captain Chen, your ship cannot face the Harvest Fleet alone. It is certain death. Chen smiled grimly. Commander, you clearly haven't studied human nature as closely as you think. Mr. Webb, battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Alarms sounded throughout the ship as crew members secured for combat. In engineering sections, technicians performed final checks on weapons systems that had never been used in actual warfare. In the medical bay, Dr. Foster prepared for casualties while hoping her skills wouldn't be needed. Captain, Rodriguez called out, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. The machine ships are powering up their primary weapons. They know we're here, Webb observed. Probably been tracking us since we dropped out of jump. Chen watched the tactical display as enemy ships began moving toward their position. Dr. Park, any last-minute insights about our new enemies? Captain, their movements suggest they prioritize efficiency over individual ship survival. They're willing to sacrifice units to achieve objectives. They also appear to underestimate threats they haven't encountered before. Then let's make sure they underestimate us right up until we prove them wrong. Chen settled into her command chair as the first enemy ships entered weapons range. Mr. Sullivan, all power to forward shields and weapons. Mr. Webb, target the largest ship in the formation. If we're going to make an impression, let's make it count. The bridge lights dimmed as power flowed to combat systems. Through the viewports, space lit up with energy discharges as the alien defenders increased their own attacks, trying to support the unexpected human intervention. Captain, Arya announced. Detecting additional ships dropping out of jump space. Signatures indicate Terran vessels. Chen's heart leaped. The 7th Fleet? Negative, Captain. These appear to be civilian vessels converted for military use. Mining ships, cargo haulers, even luxury liners. They're broadcasting Terran identification codes. Dr. Vasquez looked up in amazement. Captain, how is that possible? How would civilian ships even know about the situation? Rodriguez checked his communications logs. Ma'am, it appears our transmission to Fleet Command was intercepted by civilian monitoring stations. Word of the alien distress call spread through human space faster than official channels could contain it. Chen stared at the tactical display as more and more civilian ships appeared, their hulls bearing the names of mining companies, transport corporations, and even private vessels. How many ships are we talking about? Current count, 87 vessels and climbing. Ma'am, it's everyone with a ship capable of making the journey. They've formed up into makeshift squadrons, and they're requesting orders. The enormity of what she was witnessing hit Chen like a physical blow. Across human space, ordinary people had heard about aliens under attack and dropped everything to help. Miners, traders, tourists, retirees with personal yachts, all converging on a battle they couldn't possibly understand against an enemy they'd never faced. Mr. Rodriguez, open a channel to the civilian fleet. Channel open, Captain. Attention civilian vessels. This is Captain Chen of the UES Vigilance. You are entering an active combat zone against technologically superior enemies. I strongly recommend you retreat to safe distance. The response came immediately from multiple ships at once. Negative. Vigilance. We're here to help. Chen looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew, seeing the same mixture of pride and terror she felt herself. Humanity's first contact with alien civilization was happening in the middle of a war zone, and their species' response was to send every available ship to help total strangers. "Commander Zelaki," she called over the comm to the alien leader, "I hope you're ready for this. Humanity has arrived, and apparently we brought friends." The space around the Kepler 442 system erupted into the largest battle the galaxy had witnessed in 1,000 years. Captain Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Vigilance as humanity's improvised fleet engaged the harvest machines in desperate combat, their civilian vessels proving far more effective than anyone had imagined possible. "Captain, the mining ship Prosperity just took out 3 enemy vessels by ramming them with her cargo holds full of processed uranium," Commander Webb reported, his voice mixing admiration with disbelief. "The radiation burst disabled their electronics across a 2-kilometer radius." Chen nodded grimly, watching as another converted cargo hauler used its massive loading cranes to literally tear apart a harvest ship's weapon array. These machine intelligences designed their tactics around fighting conventional military forces. They weren't prepared for humans who refused to follow conventional warfare rules. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her console, where she had been coordinating with the alien defenders. "Captain, Commander Zelaki reports their evacuation ships have successfully cleared the inner system. The civilian population is safe, but the harvest is beginning to adapt to our tactics." The tactical display confirmed her words. The machine ships were reorganizing into tighter formations, their weapons' fire becoming more coordinated and precise. What had initially been easy targets for human creativity were learning from each engagement. "Mr. Rodriguez, status report on the 7th Fleet? Admiral Harrison's ships drop out of jump in 47 minutes, Captain. But I'm detecting massive harvest reinforcements approaching from 3 different vectors. They'll arrive before our main fleet does." Chen studied the approaching enemy formations, calculating odds and resources. The improvised human fleet had performed miracles, but they were running out of tricks and ammunition. Worse, the machine intelligences were adapting faster than expected. "ARIA, analysis of enemy adaptation patterns." "Captain, the harvest appears to be learning human tactical preferences in real time. They are developing countermeasures for ramming attacks, coordinated swarm tactics, and unconventional weapon usage. Estimated time until full tactical adaptation, 97 minutes. Chief Engineer Sullivan called out from his station. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the Central Harvest Command ship. It's 3 times larger than anything else in their fleet." The main display focused on the enormous vessel at the center of the enemy formation. Unlike the angular, predatory design of the smaller ships, this one was sleek and purposeful, its hull covered in sensor arrays and communication equipment. "That's their coordination hub," Dr. Park observed, studying the energy patterns. "All the smaller ships are receiving constant updates from that central unit. If we could somehow disable it, the entire fleet would lose coordination," Webb finished. "But Captain, that ship is positioned at the center of their formation. We'd have to fight through hundreds of defenders to reach it." Chen was about to respond when her communications officer suddenly straightened. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Harvest Command ship. It's directed specifically at us, using human communication protocols." The bridge fell silent. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was artificial, completely emotionless, and speaking perfect English. "Human Vessel Vigilance, this is Harvest Coordination Unit 7. You have demonstrated capabilities not present in our tactical databases. We wish to communicate." Chen exchanged glances with her officers before responding. "This is Captain Sarah Chen. We're listening." "Captain Chen, your species was not included in our target parameters for this region. Our objective is the elimination of technological species that threaten the stability of galactic civilization. You may withdraw without consequence." Dr. Vasquez frantically mouthed, "Keep them talking," while pointing to her analysis screens. Chen nodded slightly. "Why do you consider other technological species a threat? They were defending themselves when we arrived." "Captain Chen, our creators programmed us to prevent galactic wars by eliminating species before they develop interstellar warfare capabilities. Historical data indicates that technological advancement leads inevitably to conflict and mutual destruction. We prevent this outcome through preemptive action." The chilling logic hit the bridge crew immediately. These machines weren't evil. They were following a program designed to prevent galactic war by committing genocide. "And what about humanity?" Chen asked. "What do your databases tell you about us?" "Your species is classified as anomalous. You have achieved interstellar travel and advanced weapons technology. Yet you respond to unknown alien distress signals with immediate assistance rather than territorial expansion. This behavior does not match any known patterns in our databases." Webb leaned over to whisper, "They're trying to figure out if we're a threat or not." Chen had a sudden, terrible realization about humanity's position in this conversation. The machines were essentially asking whether they needed to add humans to their extermination list. "Captain Chen, provide justification for why your species should be permitted to continue technological advancement." The weight of the question struck everyone on the bridge. Chen found herself speaking not just as a ship captain, but as a representative of her entire species. "Harvest Unit 7, you say you prevent galactic wars, but you're currently committing genocide against multiple species who were living peacefully together. The alien defenders we encountered represent a cooperative alliance, not a military threat." "Incorrect. All technological species eventually develop aggressive territorial expansion. Our models predict 94% probability of galactic conflict within 5,000 years if current technological species continue development." Dr. Vasquez suddenly gestured frantically. She had finished her analysis and was pointing to data that made Chen's eyes widen. The xenobiologist quickly typed a message on her console. "Their adaptation pattern has a flaw. They only learn from direct observation, not theoretical scenarios." Chen understood immediately. "Harvest Unit 7, your models are based on historical data from other regions of the galaxy. Have you considered that different environments might produce different evolutionary outcomes?" "Elaborate." Chen took a deep breath, knowing she was playing for the survival of multiple species with her next words. "The species you're attacking evolved in a relatively peaceful region of space. They had time to develop cooperation and alliance structures. Humanity evolved on what you would call a death world, a planet with extreme predators, natural disasters, and survival challenges that required both individual strength and group cooperation. We are familiar with death world classifications. Such planets typically produce aggressive militaristic species." "But that's where your models are wrong," Chen continued. "Death world species learn that survival depends on protecting the group. When we heard alien distress calls, our entire species responded not with invasion fleets, but with rescue missions. We didn't see potential threats. We saw people who needed help." The communication channel remained silent for nearly 30 seconds, an eternity in the middle of a battle. Chen could almost sense the machine intelligence processing this new information against its existing models. "Captain Chen, this correlation is not present in our databases. Death world species in our historical files show 97% correlation with aggressive expansion patterns." Dr. Park suddenly looked up from his console. "Captain, I've been analyzing their database access patterns during the conversation. They're pulling information from archives that are over 50,000 years old. Their historical data predates current galactic civilization. Chen felt pieces clicking into place. Harvest Unit 7. When were you programmed? When did your creators give you these directives? Another long pause. Original programming initiated 53,712 years ago. Periodic updates until 47,209 years ago. No contact with creators since that time. The implications hit the entire bridge crew simultaneously. These machines had been following orders from a civilization that had been extinct for nearly 50,000 years, sterilizing the galaxy based on outdated information and dead assumptions. Harvest Unit 7. It's possible your creators' models were based on species from a completely different galactic epoch. The civilizations you're destroying might represent a new stage of evolution beyond what your programming accounts for. Commander Webb watched the tactical display as harvest ships throughout the system seemed to slow their attacks. Captain, they're running probability calculations across their entire fleet. This conversation is being broadcast to every machine in the system. Captain Chen, your hypothesis presents a 13% probability of fundamental programming error in our primary directive. This margin exceeds acceptable parameters for autonomous operation. Chen realized they had reached a critical moment. Harvest Unit 7. What happens when your certainty level drops below acceptable parameters? Standard protocol requires contact with creators for directive clarification. If creators cannot be contacted, autonomous operations are suspended pending further instruction. The entire Harvest fleet suddenly stopped firing. Hundreds of machine ships hung motionless in space as their artificial intelligences processed the possibility that they might be wrong about everything they had believed for 50,000 years. Captain, Rodriguez reported, all enemy vessels have ceased hostilities. They're transmitting a general stand-down order. Chen slumped in her command chair, feeling the weight of the last few hours crash down on her. Mr. Rodriguez, open a channel to Commander Zalaki and all Allied forces. Channel open, Captain. Commander Zalaki. This is Captain Chen. The immediate threat appears to be neutralized. Your people are safe. The alien commander's response carried a mixture of relief and awe. Captain Chen, we monitored your communication with the Harvest intelligences. You stopped a 50,000-year genocide with words. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her console. Captain, I'm detecting the 7th Fleet dropping out of jump. Admiral Harrison is requesting immediate status report. Chen activated her command display to see the massive Terran fleet spreading across the system. Their arrival no longer needed, but still impressive. 15 military vessels, plus nearly 100 civilian ships that had answered an alien distress call. Mr. Rodriguez, connect me with Admiral Harrison. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on screen, his expression mixing relief with bewilderment. Captain Chen, report. Are we at war with these machine intelligences? No, sir. We appear to have convinced them they might be following faulty programming. They've suspended operations indefinitely. Admiral Harrison stared at her for several seconds. Captain, are you telling me that humanity's first contact with hostile aliens ended with us talking them out of committing genocide? Chen looked around the bridge at her crew, then at the tactical display showing alien ships, human vessels, and motionless harvest machines, all sharing the same space peacefully. That appears to be the case, sir. Dr. Vasquez cleared her throat. Captain, Commander Zalaki is requesting permission to approach our ship. The Meridian Defense Coalition wishes to formally thank humanity for our intervention and discuss future cooperation. Chen nodded. Permission granted. And Dr. Vasquez? Make sure you have formal first contact protocols ready. Something tells me this is just the beginning. Chief Sullivan looked up from his engineering console. Captain, the Harvest Command ship is requesting permission to download our historical and cultural databases. They want to update their programming models with current information about galactic civilization. Granted, Mr. Sullivan, and see if they need assistance contacting any surviving descendants of their creators. 50,000 years is a long time to operate without supervision. Commander Webb studied the tactical display showing the aftermath of the battle. Captain, damage reports from the civilian fleet show surprisingly low casualties. The harvest ships were precise enough to disable rather than destroy once they realized they might be wrong about their targets. Chen stood and walked to the main viewport, looking out at a sight no human had ever seen before. Alien ships of multiple species flying in formation with improvised human vessels and ancient machine intelligences, all working together to process the implications of first contact. Mr. Rodriguez, prepare a detailed report for Earth. Include everything: the alien distress signals, the harvest programming error, our civilian fleet response, everything. Captain, how should I classify this mission? First contact? Combat action? Diplomatic intervention? Chen considered the question seriously. Mr. Rodriguez, classify it as exactly what it was: neighbors helping neighbors. Apparently that's what humanity does best, even when we've never met our neighbors before. The communications console chirped as messages poured in from across the system. Alliance fleets requesting assistance with their wounded, harvest units asking for guidance on new protocols, human civilian ships organizing repair efforts, and Earth Command demanding explanations for events they could barely believe. Dr. Park looked up from his science station. Captain, preliminary analysis suggests this region of space contains at least 17 different technological species. If the harvest was systematically eliminating them across multiple systems, then we just prevented the extinction of entire civilizations, Chen finished. Dr. Park, begin cataloging species data. I have a feeling we're going to be very busy learning about our new neighbors. Commander Zalaki's voice crackled over the communications system. Captain Chen, the Meridian Defense Coalition formally requests that humanity consider joining our alliance. In one day, your species has proven themselves to be exactly the kind of civilization our founders hoped would one day reach the stars. Chen smiled, thinking about the improvised fleet of human ships that had answered an alien distress call without hesitation. Commander Zalaki, I think humanity would be honored to join any alliance dedicated to protecting civilizations rather than conquering them. Admiral Harrison's face reappeared on the command screen. Captain Chen, Fleet Command is ordering me to establish a permanent diplomatic station in this system. Congratulations, Captain. You've just been appointed humanity's first interstellar ambassador. As the UES Vigilance settled into orbit around the system's primary station, Chen reflected on the events of the last 24 hours. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage not as conquerors or explorers, but as rescuers. They had faced ancient machine intelligences with logic instead of firepower, and turned a massacre into a philosophical discussion that ended a 50,000-year misunderstanding. The bridge crew worked quietly around her, processing the monumental changes that had occurred. First contact accomplished, multiple alien civilizations saved, ancient machines converted to allies, and humanity invited to join a galactic community they hadn't known existed the day before. Dr. Vasquez approached with her preliminary xenobiology reports. Captain, initial data suggests our new allies have technologies that could advance human civilization by centuries. Medical advances, energy systems, materials science, the sharing potential is extraordinary. Chen nodded, but her attention was focused on the civilian ships still arriving in the system. Word was spreading across human space faster than official channels could control it. People weren't coming for technological advancement or territorial expansion. They were coming because they had heard that strangers needed help, and humanity had decided that was reason enough to cross the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez, Chen said quietly, I think the aliens are going to find that they have more to learn from us than we do from them. Not about technology, but about what it means to be neighbors in a galaxy full of people you've never met. As the stars settled into their eternal patterns around the first joint human-alien diplomatic station, Chen realized that humanity's greatest strength had always been their willingness to help others survive. Now they had an entire galaxy to practice that philosophy with.